Welcome back to the PI show. I'm with Marie Mercuri, psychologist, and Tony Carbone, experienced PI lawyer. We're talking about psychological injuries and the very sad case of Brodie Panlock, who committed suicide. A couple of things. The matter that went before the magistrate was a conviction under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. That's a quasi-criminal conviction. The parents attended court and have lived through this. What sort of condition would they be in?
Again, without knowing all the circumstances and actually seeing the parents, there could be a couple of things. Obviously, they're grieving parents for their 19-year-old daughter. There may be, in terms of a psychological diagnosis, something like adjustment disorder. So maybe adjusting to to the reality of their daughter, committing suicide. They may fit that criteria, but again, that would sort of need to be assessed formally. It's very difficult to comment on that.
I think they've been pretty badly affected. I mean,
absolutely.
The father says he's lost faith in human nature, and the mother's grieving at the gravesite and
absolutely.
all sorts of things. So.
I mean, it's a traumatic event, but whether that fits, a proper psychological diagnosis, really needs to be sort of established in a formal setting.
Well, during the break, we're talking about what sort of legal remedies they have, Tony. So possibly they would be eligible under victims of crime.
They've probably got a victims of crime, and we're not really sure what level of benefits they could get. But you'd think death benefits and things like that would have been picked up by the Accident Compensation Act for funeral and things like that.
Yeah, her benefits.
They'd probably have some smallish type entitlement. If it was a murder case, you'd be entitled to probably a lump sum of 50,000 or.
Yeah, if victims of a murder, yeah. But and also depending on the sort of psychological sort of condition, they may be able to sue the company responsible.
I would have thought that they could probably sue the company and the perpetrators, the whole lot of them, albeit the company would probably be covered by some sort of insurance.
So
you don't know how much, if they're impecunious to these other people.
The other individuals may not end up, paying the fines. They may or may not. We don't know, but they possibly have a remedy in suing the company for what you call wrongful death, and they have suffered an injury as a result of that.
Well, I think what might happen is just wait and see in terms of some diagnosis of what their injury is.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds to me it's headed towards a post-traumatic stress if it's not already there. I'm not a doctor, but that's my gut feeling at this stage.
Well, yeah, the other sort of, Victoria's had a number of very significant events along these lines. One was the Mildura teenagers, 6 people killed by a driver who I think had a little boy on his lap and lost control. That was on the 18th of February 2006, and I think they were coming home from a birthday party. So I think they were all 16 or 17, and 6 of them were killed.
Yeah.
They vary between 15 and 17, Harry. There's quite a few of them.
Now, what's happened since February 2006 is I think there's been 25 claims with the TAC arising from those events. And it's one is a sister of one of the victims. Right, one is a father of one of the victims, and all the family, I think, or a number of people in that family involved, or the families involved, have put in claims against TAC. Every one of them has been settled out of court, so we don't know what sort of compensation they've received. But, in that situation, a sister or a parent, a father, again, what would distinguish normal grief from something like a post-traumatic stress?
Normal grief is really something that someone experiences when there's a major loss. It's not really an illness, and it's not something that can be cured. It's something that everyone needs to deal with in their own way. post-traumatic stress is actually a psychological illness. It's an anxiety-related disorder, and there's various criteria that someone would need to meet to get that
There's
diagnosis.
a manual that sets out criteria, isn't there?
Absolutely, and that's usually assessed using the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is a long word for the DSM, which is used by a lot of health professionals.
So that's a big American textbook.
It is.
That sets out all the mental
That's right.
disorders
That's
and all
right.
the...
So someone would have to do a sort of a formal assessment to see whether the person met the criteria. And there's 4 major criteria: re-experiencing, avoiding, emotional numbing and hyper-arousal. Now, some of the symptoms of grief may reflect that, some of those categories, but they may not necessarily fit into each category.
And how important is medical treatment and medication in that diagnosis?
It's imperative because sometimes these issues, if you think about soldiers that have gone to war, people carry these issues around for 20, 30, 40 years if they're not treated.
But in a lot of cases, don't you have situations where people keep it inside, and like you said, the Voyager cases is something we looked at in the past.
That's right.
It comes out down the track. They finally get treatment at some point in time.
Hopefully
And the
they do, and
diagnosis is done
hopefully
down the
they
track.
will. But there's a lot of avoidance. So one of the symptoms is that people want to avoid actually talking about it and dealing with it. So that becomes troublesome.
In a lot of cases we've seen, Harry, of late is, the sexual abuse. People when they were younger, they might have been abused, and it sort of comes out in their teens or
that's right.
Young adulthood.
20 years later.
Yeah,
that's right.
And we're seeing quite a few of those now.
That's right.
Well, look, we've gone through sort of workplace bullying, and these are the transport accident scenarios where, again, the difference in transport accident, you've got to go through legally the Section 93 of the transport accident. You've got to have a serious injury to actually make a claim.
Well, most of these injuries, are long-lasting, Harry, so
which arise from
they're generally pretty serious.
Which arise from a serious injury. Yeah. So that makes a difference legally. Yeah. But I think that's all we've got time for in this episode, and because of the significance of the topic and I think its importance, we're going to get Maria back next week for the second episode and continue this discussion.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for watching this segment. We'll be having a short break. We'll be back after the break.
Thank you.
Thank you.